Chapter 3. Pemberton Tries to Escape. You're looking at a map that's adapted from one I found in the Atlas to the official records. This map has an animation running on top of it, and the clock is stopped about 8 a.m. on the day of the battle. The map shows the battlefield at Champion Hill, located about midway between Vicksburg, Mississippi, and the Mississippi state capital at Jackson. The major features here are the towns of Bolton on the east at the right edge of the map, and the town of Edwards to the west on the left edge of the map. It's about 10 miles between Bolton and Edwards. There's a creek, Baker's Creek, running in a loop from northeast to southwest here. Baker's Creek is an obstacle, and it sits across the Confederate line of retreat. There are 3 roads that run into Edwards from the east: the Jackson Road on the north, Raymond Road on the south, and the Middle Road in the center. And note the crossroads here. The crossroads are a point where north-south and east-west roads meet, and the crossroads changed hands at least 3 times during the battle. Blue icons are Union infantry brigades. Gray icons are Confederate infantry brigades. And note that the Confederates are deployed in a line more or less north to south, and the Union forces are deployed westbound on the 3 roads. I've seen writers say that the Confederates have interior lines, which gives them an advantage in communicating with and reinforcing each other, and that the Union lines are on exterior lines, which makes it harder for them to communicate with and reinforce each other. Maybe. And then also, on the Union side, the ground separating the 3 roads is bad in places, which makes their problem of exterior lines worse, and then General Grant has a testy relationship with the commander of the Corps that should be leading the attack, Major General John McClernand. And on top of that, General Grant rode to the battle alongside the other Corps commander, Major General James McPherson, and this seemed to further isolate Grant from McClernand. In Chapter 1, on May 15, Lieutenant General John Pemberton's Confederate Army tried to march southeast from Edwards to put themselves onto the Union supply line, hoping to force the Union Army to attack them at a spot the Confederates had chosen. But on the 15th, they only made it as far as you see here. This is maybe halfway to their goal. And Pemberton and his army woke up the next morning on the 16th to discover that the Union Army had captured Jackson and was now attacking them from the east, and that Pemberton's commander, General Joseph Johnston, was again ordering them to march to join forces with him. Pemberton decides to cancel the march to the southeast. Instead, now they'll turn back and make their way as ordered to join General Johnston north of the railroad. And I think you can see, with your bird's eye view here, see the Union troops approaching on these roads. The turning back to Edwards is not going to work out. It's one of those situations where a commander wants to disengage, but the enemy won't let them. As I said, this map is an animation, and I'll start the clock now at 8 a.m. Pemberton's army is in a column along the road they were following the day before. In the lead are the 3 brigades in Loring's division. In the center are the 2 brigades in Bowen's division. And at the end of the column are the 4 brigades in Stevenson's division. Pemberton has ordered the wagon trains sent to the rear, and Reynolds' brigade is escorting them back across the creek to safety. The Union Army is approaching on the 3 roads from the east, and the major attack will occur on the Jackson Road in the north. You see so far the 2 brigades in Hovey's Union division and the 3 brigades in Logan's division are following them. On the south, see 4 brigades, the 2 brigades in A.J. Smith's Union division, followed by the 2 brigades in Blair's division. And also see 4 brigades in the center on the Middle Road. Osterhaus's 2 Union brigades are in the lead, followed by the 2 brigades in Carr's division. The first step for Pemberton's army, if they're to disengage, was to get the wagon train moving, because the wagon train is blocking their exit and because they want to protect it. Major General Carter Stevenson, commanding one of Pemberton's 3 divisions, ordered Colonel Reynolds to take his brigade and escort the wagons northwest to safety. General Stevenson also sent a 9-company combat team from Cummings' brigade to the crest of Bowles Hill here, and then as a further precaution, sent a combat patrol out past that, further to the east. At some point around this time, they realized that they should look to their line of retreat. And you may remember from Chapter 1 that the Confederate Army found that the lower bridge over Baker's Creek was out and the ford was flooded, and that forced them to detour to the upper crossing over Baker's Creek. The upper crossing was now their only way out, and someone realized that might be a problem. Maybe that was Pemberton's chief engineer, Major Samuel Lockett. We know that it was Major Lockett that early in the morning assigned a company of pioneers to go back down the road and get the lower crossing on Baker's Creek opened up again. So while all the fighting goes on throughout the day, the Pioneer Company will be working away, lowering the banks of the creek to open up the ford, and they're also rebuilding the bridge. It's now 9 a.m., and let's see what happens next. Pemberton has moved his headquarters to the Roberts House here. This is in the center and a better spot to supervise the disengagement. The plan is still to get away and march back to Edwards. So far, the only enemy contact has been on the Middle and Raymond roads. Pemberton doesn't know yet about Union troops approaching on the Jackson Road to the north. Loring's division deploys in line of battle. General Loring will retreat slowly until he finds a good defensive position, and Bowen's division shifted slightly to support Loring. And up north, see the wagon train, now across Baker's Creek, escorted by Reynolds' brigade. To the north, Brigadier General Lee commands the brigade that is now on the left end of Pemberton's line. There are 4 brigades in Stevenson's division, but one of the 4 is gone. It escorted the wagon train back to the northwest, which leaves General Stevenson with 3 brigades on this side of Baker's Creek. The 3 remaining brigades are Lee, Cumming, and Barton. Lee, on the left end, is concerned about the crossroads, because it is the only route connecting the rest of the army to his south, to the Baker's Creek Bridge in his rear to the west, the Army's retreat route. Lee shifted his brigade north to cover the crossroads, and Cummings and Barton's brigades shifted north behind him to cover the gap back to Bowen's division. Lee also sent a skirmish team, about company-sized, out to the north, to the tree line just south of the Champion House. From the top of Champion Hill, Lieutenant Colonel Edmund Pettus could see into the valley of Baker's Creek as it curved to the east, and he spotted what Timothy Smith in his book Champion Hill described as a huge array of Federals gathering and marching southward toward the crossroads. So at about 9:15 a.m., Colonel Pettus's patrol sent word back to General Lee, the brigade commander, that a powerful Federal column was approaching on the Jackson Road. Warren Grabow, in his book 98 Days, wrote that Brigadier General Lee was horrified and saw the potential for a real disaster. An attack coming south along the Jackson Road would hit him in the flank and roll his flank right up. Lee sent a message to his division commander, General Stevenson, and Stevenson passed word on to General Pemberton. Grabow wrote, "It was Pemberton's first real intimation that a battle might be shaping up." Pemberton at this point still thinks they will be able to disengage and retreat back to Edwards. But Pemberton now starts to change his mind. As I said, Pemberton's plan at dawn was to continue the march southeast to Dillon. Then around 8 a.m., responding to the news that Jackson had fallen, and realizing that the Union Army was on his doorstep, Pemberton decided to obey General Johnston's order and try to retreat and join up with Johnston to the northeast. Now, maybe around 11 a.m., as suggested by Warren Grabow, Pemberton realized his army would have to fight where it was. Pemberton began to see that a major action is developing on his left with Stevenson's division on the Jackson Road. But at the same time, General Bowen in the center and General Loring on the Raymond Road on his right are reporting that they were under heavy attack. So at some point, Pemberton realized he could not disengage, that he was going to have to fight here at Champion Hill. Lee's brigade and the rest of Stevenson's division shift to the left to meet the threat from the north. At about 11 a.m., see Lee's brigade on Champion Hill. They're now facing two Federal divisions, the 3 brigades of Logan's division and the 2 brigades in Hovey's division. More Federal troops are behind them, approaching from the east, probably about 2 to 3 hours away. The Union frontal attack up Champion Hill starts about 10:30 or 11. Grant has arrived at the Champion House, and Pemberton was at his headquarters at the Roberts House. Timothy Smith, in his book Champion Hill, criticized Pemberton's decision to stay at his headquarters, writing that it was a good central location, but Pemberton knew his left was seriously threatened and that its defense was in the hands of an inexperienced division commander. Yet, he chose to remain on the Roberts property, dispatching couriers and managing his army like the bureaucrat he was. Grant was at the point of decision at the head of his army. Pemberton was at his headquarters. By about noon, see that Brigadier General Lee has shifted further out to the east. Lee saw Union troops adding to their line on his left flank and is trying to shift left to match their movements. Cummings' brigade has moved up to take Lee's old position to the right. See that the position of Stevenson's Confederate division on Champion Hill, guarding the crossroads, is outflanked on both the left and the right. Barton's brigade, the last of Stevenson's 4 brigades, begins to move forward, coming up to help. Barton's brigade comes up from the center to take a position on the Confederate far left flank. Bowen's division is still in the center along Ratliff Road here, and Loring's Confederate division is facing Smith's Union division on the Raymond Road to the south. You may ask, what are the Union troops on the Raymond Road and Middle Road doing? Grant is with General McPherson at the Champion House, and he's sending couriers to General McClernand, encouraging him to move forward. But the couriers take a long time to find their way across country and deliver the message. And McClernand's earlier orders caution him against starting a fight unless he was sure of success. I don't know of any good answers for why McClernand did not move forward. I think it's fair to point out that Grant and McClernand were rivals, and that McClernand was relieved of his command on June 19, which is just 1 month and 3 days after the Battle of Champion Hill. By about 12:30 p.m., Logan's and Hovey's divisions have pushed the Confederates off of Champion Hill. See that Slack's brigade here is just about to reach the crossroads, and out to the west, see that Stevenson's Union brigade is nearing the Jackson Road. Let me interrupt here and point out that there are 2 General Stevensons in this battle. Brigadier General John Stevenson commands an infantry brigade in Logan's division. It's his Union brigade that cuts the Jackson Road. Major General Carter Stevenson, a Confederate, commands the largest of Pemberton's divisions. It's Stevenson's division that had the bad luck to be at the tail end of Pemberton's column on May 15, which meant that when the Confederates were attacked on the morning of the 16th, Stevenson's division took the blow, and it's the Union Brigade, commanded by Brigadier General John Stevenson, that reaches the Jackson Road on the Confederate extreme left flank. And why is it important that Union troops reached the road there? They've cut the Confederate retreat route, and Pemberton's army, under attack, is now trapped. See that there are 3 Confederate brigades here, Stevenson's division, facing at least 5 Union brigades on their immediate front, and 3 more Union brigades on the Jackson Road are approaching at their best speed. And there's another 4 Union brigades basically loitering on the Confederate flank to the east. There's a lull about this time, following the Union breakthrough on Champion Hill. Pemberton was located at his headquarters at the Roberts House here, and while his left was crumbling, Pemberton did not hear sounds of battle from the center or right. The Union attacks on his center and right had stalled, but his commanders at those 2 spots reported that they were under heavy attack. Those 2 generals are Brigadier General John Bowen, commanding the division in Pemberton's center, and Major General William Loring, commanding the division on the right. Warren Grabow wrote that Pemberton sent a staff officer to both Bowen and Loring, directing them to leave rear guards on the Raymond Road and come at once to the support of Stevenson. From his position, Pemberton could see that there was no sign of action at all on the middle road. Hearing no sounds of battle and seeing no fighting, Pemberton's conclusion was that neither Bowen or Loring was seriously engaged, which meant that part or all of their divisions were available. They could be moved north to meet the emergency on his left. So what about the reports from Bowen and Loring? All the writers I've seen point out that there was a feud, with Loring and Bowen on one side and Pemberton on the other, and writers agree that there was no real pressure on Loring's and Bowen's divisions. The only enemy on Bowen's front was Union skirmishers trying to make contact across the gap between Osterhaus and Smith's divisions. And Loring was facing just a single Union brigade on his front, and since 9 a.m. there was no real attack on Loring's front, just long-range artillery fire. As Stevenson's division on his left struggled about midday, Pemberton sent a staff officer to find Generals Loring and Bowen and bring reinforcements. The order read, "Tell General Bowen to move up at once to assist Stevenson, and tell Loring to move his division, leaving Colonel Scott and Adams's cavalry at the ford, also to the assistance of Stevenson." Grabow writes that the staff officer returned to Pemberton 20 minutes later and reported that Bowen had replied that the enemy was in heavy force in his front and that he refused unless he was given a peremptory order. So we might wonder, how is "move up at once" not peremptory? And the staff officer also told Pemberton that one of Loring's staff officers was there when he met Bowen, and the staff officer told him that Loring felt the same way. That's bad, but it gets worse. Timothy Smith, in his book Champion Hill, wrote that another officer, who was a witness, wrote that when a courier then brought the order to General Loring, with 2 of Loring's brigade commanders standing right there, Loring refused, and that before the courier was out of hearing, they all said harsh, ill-natured things and made ill-natured jests in regard to General Pemberton. It would probably take a Shakespeare to recreate what they said, in the middle of the noise and stink of a battle, with their fellow officers as an audience, but their words are lost to history. Too bad. I love vulgar humor, and it sounds like there was some bad, disrespectful, and mocking language that morning. Major General Loring already had a reputation for being disagreeable and disobedient. Loring was transferred out of Stonewall Jackson's command in Virginia in 1862 and had disobeyed previous orders from General Pemberton. Myself, I'm wondering why, Pemberton hadn't already relieved him. It's an interesting dilemma. Which is better, an experienced and capable officer who is insubordinate and unreliable, or an obedient but inexperienced officer? Warren Grabow wrote about Bowen and Loring at this moment. In the midst of a great battle, the two division commanders, evidently acting from motives no higher than personal spite, deliberately disobeyed orders from their commanding general. To justify their behavior, both Bowen and Loring simply lied. Regardless of their claims at the time, there was little or no pressure on the fronts of either division. Timothy Smith wrote that the back and forth continued, with orders from Pemberton to Bowen to send one brigade now and the other ASAP, and to Loring to shift north to cover the gap opened when Bowen moved. While this exchange went on, news continued to come in from Stevenson's lines, and they could see men from Stevenson's division drifting past Pemberton's headquarters, heading to the rear, defeated or wounded, melting away from the front. Finally, Pemberton decided in desperation that he had to deliver the order personally, and by now he was so angry that he needed help mounting his horse. Cockrell's brigade was the nearest on Ratliff Road, and then there's Green's brigade to the south. Pemberton rode down to Cockrell's brigade and personally ordered them forward, and apparently Cockrell's brigade were champing at the bit and were moving immediately. Pemberton sent a second order to Bowen, telling him to bring Green's brigade north to the Roberts House. By about 2 p.m., you can see that Logan and Hovey's Union divisions control the crossroads and the road leading to the upper bridge across Baker's Creek. Logan's division is the 3 brigades on the Union right. Hovey's division is these 2 brigades at the crossroads. Crocker's division is the 3 brigades approaching here on Jackson Road. Osterhaus and Carr's Union divisions are on the Middle Road. A.J. Smith's and Blair's Union divisions are on the Raymond Road. With Union troops controlling the crossroads, the Confederate Army was now split in 2, and with Stevenson's Union brigades sitting on Jackson Road, their line of retreat was cut off. The 3 Confederate brigades on the left are Stevenson's division. The 2 brigades from Bowen's division are moving forward to their start point, Cockrell's brigade leading the way on the left, Green's brigade following on the right. The 3 brigades in Loring's division are still south, near the Raymond Road on the Confederate right. As I said, the Confederate line of retreat was cut off. The line of retreat was across the bridge they used the day before, the upper crossing of Baker's Creek, and of course you know there was another crossing, the lower crossing. The lower crossing was closed. The bridge was broken and the ford was flooded. But the water in the creek was dropping, and as I said earlier, Major Samuel Lockett, Pemberton's chief engineer, had a pioneer company, starting early in the morning, working on rebuilding the bridge and cutting down the banks to reopen the ford. And this will be important later. Recognize Major Lockett as a little-known hero of the Confederate side at Champion Hill. According to Grabow, by now the Federal troops at the crossroads, McGinnis and Slack's brigades from Hovey's division, were tired and disorganized. Brigadier General George McGinnis, commanding one of the brigades, was at the summit of the hill and saw a fresh Confederate division organizing in his front south of the crossroads. He's looking at Bowen's division here. And McGinnis sent an urgent message to General Hovey commanding the division. But before a reply arrived, Bowen's division began an attack Warren Grabow described as the most abandoned assault McGinnis had ever seen. Next, in Chapter 4, General Bowen leads his Confederate division on a counterattack.